This is Unicorn Builders, where we tell the untold stories of the founders who've defied the odds and built billion-dollar companies. Here's your host, Brett Stapper, CEO of Frontlines.io. Now, let's jump straight into today's episode.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Category Visionaries. Today we're speaking with Gage Caligaris, CEO and founder of Ledgebrook, an insurance technology company that's raised $50 million in funding. Gage, how are you?
I'm doing great, Brett. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm super excited for this conversation. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Talk to us about what you're building.
Yeah, so Ledgebrook is a next-gen insurtech looking to bring a better, faster quoting experience to our wholesale broker partners. And so really what we've built to date is something that combines the best of modern technology with the best of insurance expertise to then go to market to the kind of more backwater, inside baseball, even I'd call it the Wild West of commercial insurance policies. And that's what we've got today.
Looking back at your history, I see you spent almost a decade at Liberty Mutual. Did you always have this master plan that, someday you're going to go off on your own and start an insurance technology company? Or where did that idea come from?
Yeah, that's right. I spent the better part of a decade at Liberty where I became an actuary, and that was kind of my entry point into the industry. And I actually did. From the moment I started, I thought of it as kind of learning a trade. I thought of myself as an insurance plumber, and I was going to start some kind of business. I think the vision for Ledgebrook is probably bigger than I would have even anticipated 10 years ago, but it was always part of the plan. So I really spent the bulk of my time there not only learning about the industry, but trying to figure out, how to manage people, how to scale a company. In the last couple of years I spent there, I grew a mobility business from about 40 million in premium to almost 500 in 18 months. And so that was kind of the last thing that clicked. And I absolutely love doing it. And so hung the shingle about 3 years ago now.
What's that journey been like for you? Paint a picture for us. Maybe the first 6 months into this journey, what was it like?
Yeah, the first 6 months, it's very distinct for our business because it took us over a year to write our first policy. So from March of 2022, when I left Liberty Mutual, to May of 2023. And that's just because there's a lot of barriers to entry in the insurance industry to get stood up in terms of licensing, partnerships, reinsurance, brokerage, building the technology itself. So that first year was very much, I don't want to call it Camp Ledgebrook, but we were building together, we were heads down. And then once we got into market, we had a very different set of challenges ahead of us, right? We had to serve those customers. We have to figure out how to scale and grow and do so profitably. And then the next phase, kind of over the last year, if we take it in 1 year chunks, we've gone from maybe 30 to 90 or almost 100 people at this point. And so that's a very different challenge than scaling, the initial team of 15 or 20 up to 30 to 50.
How long from when you founded the company until you were generating revenue? How long did that take?
Yeah, so March to May, so about 14 months.
How did you get that first customer to say yes? I think that's always one of the biggest things that founders struggle with. How did you get that first paying customer?
Yeah, so our strategy is pretty simple. And I think that's been one good thing about our go-to-market. So what we basically say is we'll be the fastest quote, we'll be the easiest to do business with. And so to give you a comparison point, basically it's sort of an auction style market where the brokers will send out submissions to a variety of insurance carriers, and then you got to get back to them with a quote. Fast and cheap is what they like. We'd prefer to be fast over cheap. And so really providing that service. And then the other thing our brokers would tell you, who we consider our customers, would be, Ledgebrook picks up the phone when you call, right? Which not all of our competitors do. So if you need to get an insurance policy bound, we're there to work through the final details with you. That's what wins. And so the first customers were really scratching and clawing, right? We had to go out, pound the pavement, meet people in their offices, establish relationships. But what really allowed us to take off was about 6 months in. Once we had a bit of a track record, 6 months is not a huge track record, but we just kept showing up, right? We kept coming back with those fast quotes. We kept picking up the phone, and we went to kind of the big industry conference of the year, and people were like, hey, you did what you said you were going to do. I'm going to send you more submissions. I like what you guys are doing. I want to support, want to help you grow. So just really showing up consistently with a very simple value prop, speed of service, is what allowed us to first penetrate the market, and then really what allowed us, I'd say, to scale to that next level.
When it comes to the market category, how do you think about the market category that you're in?
Yeah, so it's a great one. The E&S insurance market has really exploded over the last few years. I think it was 100 billion plus. So if we were even to achieve a 1-2% market share, that's plenty of success. Obviously, we have a bit more aspirations than that. So that's kind of the category, but that's made up of a number of products, right? So what we're doing is we've got our general liability flagship product out in market. We then followed that up with a professional liability offering, and most recently an unsupported excess product that launched 1/1. And so we can continue to offer the same value prop and then go to market with, a specialized set of underwriters and actuaries for each of these different lines of business. And that's a way for us to take a bite-sized piece of the segment one step at a time.
This show is brought to you by Frontlines Media, a podcast production studio that helps B2B founders launch, manage, and grow their own podcast. Now, if you're a founder, you may be thinking, I don't have time to host a podcast. I've got a company to build. Well, that's exactly what we built our service to do. You show up and host, and we handle literally everything else. To set up a call to discuss launching your own podcast, visit frontlines.io/podcast. Now, back to today's episode.
On the marketing side, how would you describe your general marketing philosophy?
So it's interesting. We were in Miami last week for an all-staff offsite with a couple of our investors as well. And what the investors told me, I can't believe you guys have gotten to the scale you've gotten to without really any like public marketing or PR or those type of things. Really what we've done is kept it focused on the customer. So we're in our brokers' offices. Our underwriters travel 2 weeks out of the month to go see them in Chicago, Atlanta, Philly, New Jersey, Dallas, all these places. So we're there. And so instead of kind of a marketing campaign, it's a boots on the ground approach. And then combine that with the value prop offering that I was talking about before, picking up the phone, getting back to people quickly. That's kind of been the strategy, as well as to keep it simple, right? We're not over promising the sun, the sky, and the stars, but it's been something that's resonated really well so far.
That's a lot of growth in just a couple of years. How would you describe the culture at the company?
Yeah, it has been a wild growth. So since that first policy that we wrote in May of 23, we just got to a $100 million run rate in December. So less than 2 years later, it's been some heady growth. And the culture is really what's been able to drive that. The technology we have is great. I think that really sets us apart. But what we need is kind of underwriters on the front line who are able to kind of provide this service, as well as I would say a real connectivity across the functions, right? So the tech guys actually talk to the underwriters. They do ride-alongs every other week to see what their job is like and what would help them and what wouldn't. The actuaries aren't always the most integrated in an insurance company with the rest of the business. That's definitely not the case here. From myself down, we've got a stacked team. Richie, Jeff, and Chris are with the rest of the functions all the time. And so there's just a ton of communication going on, which allows us to move faster and build the right things. And people are just having fun. Honestly, I think that's how they would describe culture at Ledgebrook. And it's been something that's allowed us. One of the ways we've been able to scale the headcount so quickly is we've been able to do it primarily by referral. So people are like, man, I'm having a blast here. Like, let me bring my friends. And then they're able to sell that for us. Recruiting is really hard. And so to be able to do a lot of that by referral is something that's been a real kind of gasoline on the fire to our growth.
What about the marketing team specifically? How have you approached building out that marketing team? And the reason I ask, so many founders that I speak to, they struggle with that. Building any team is hard, but it seems like building a marketing team can be especially tricky. What have you learned so far?
Yeah. So what I've learned is that all right, pound for pound, right? We have some really top talent, and to continue to prune the tree and make sure that everybody out there is aligned and pulling their weight, so to speak. So separate from the underwriters, we have what we call BRMs. So broker relationship managers, which I think you would classify more as a marketing focused role versus a production one.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like I just mentioned, they're fully integrated with the underwriters. They're going on these trips. They're facilitating them. They're following up on quotes. They're actually adding value and making life easy for the rest of our team, which I think is another departure from what you sometimes see at insurance companies where the BRM can get in the way, or maybe they're not empowered to actually bind policies. So the brokers don't love dealing with them. Our brokers love our BRMs and our underwriters love our BRMs, and there's no kind of friction there. And so that's a dynamic that can go south in a hurry, right? If you start to get, one bad apple in the bunch, that's not something we've seen so far. And I think that's my job too, as the CEO, to make sure we maintain this dynamic. I talk about it a lot with the team, right? Like these will always be the first 90, 100 employees, full stop. And as we get to 200, as we get to 1,000, the one thing I can like promise is to keep this dynamic, to keep this energy, this culture, and hopefully that serves us well in the long run.
How do you keep that culture? I think I've seen that a lot with startups. You start off with one culture when it's smaller, more tight knit. And then as the company gets big, you start to do big company stuff and some of that early culture dies. Like, how do you plan on maintaining that culture?
Yeah. So one of the big things we do is we have a really, really active Slack channel, not one channel, but like dozens upon dozens. And, people are sharing team photos, they're sharing funny memes. Every time we bind a policy, there's posts with like reaction gifs, and it just, we're a fully distributed company, right? So we're all across the country and the world. Well, people say they've never felt kind of more connected. And I think for my part, also posting stupid stuff, right? And like having fun and not taking things too seriously is something I can do to continue to like set an example of like, we're here to work hard, we're here to succeed. Everybody knows that, but I'm here to have fun along the way too, right? And if I'm doing it, it kind of gives everybody permission to lean into the fun parts of the job.
This show is brought to you by the Global Talent Co., a marketing leader's best friend in these times of budget cuts and efficient growth. We help marketing leaders find, hire, vet, and manage amazing marketing talent for 50 to 70% less than their US and European counterparts. To book a free consultation, visit globaltalent.co.
What's your best meme or your favorite recent meme you posted?
Oh, well, I am a sucker for Star Wars prequel memes. I think anybody on the team would be able to tell you that. I don't know if I could choose just one, but like every time I see one of those, that's how you want a brown nose with the boss over here. You got to post a Star Wars prequel meme. That's for sure.
That's awesome. And for any of the talent that's listening in that may join the team, ultimate hack right here. You just gave them a way to get in.
100%.
When you reflect on all the success you've had and the go-to-market specifically, like what do you think you've really gotten right?
What we've gotten right, I think, is, just staying focused on doing the basics, honestly. What are the problems that our brokers have, right? They need fast quotes, right? And they need you to pick up the phone, right? They don't need an AI chatbot, right, to help them do things, right? We need internal technology that helps us deliver great service, but we can just keep blocking and tackling. We can keep getting up every day, having a great attitude, trying our very best and being good to the people around us. And that resonates, right? Don't overcomplicate it. Stay true to what you're trying to do. And, as you scale up, right, as you succeed, there's different, you start doing podcasts like this, Brett, and, you can start to drink the Kool-Aid a little bit. But I think we've done a pretty good job so far of just staying nose to the grindstone, blocking and tackling, and not taking our eye off the ball.
What about big decisions? Is there a specific go-to-market decision that you've made that now you reflect back on and think like, yeah, that was a really good decision?
Yeah, I think the decision to like move really fast in launching additional products is something that I was a good one at the time and continues to be a big part of the strategy. So literally, I think the day after we launched our first product, I told the team, look, okay, what are products 2 and 3? How are we going to get the underwriting teams? How are we going to get these to market? And it was a little bit of a shocker, right? Because you hustle, right? It had been the better part of a year for most people. And we finally got this thing across the finish line. We're finally live. And it's like, and then it's what's next? But this in insurance, there's such a lag, right, between when you start to develop a product and go to market. It can take years. And so to just keep going. And we had a big launch at 1/1, right? We transitioned and launched the XS, and immediately the next plan, 3-5-7, let's get 3 products out in the next 6 months. Are we going to achieve that? Your guess is as good as mine, but we're certainly going to try. And I think that's a learning that we've had, is to continue to push, to stay on the front of our skis and get to market with more product.
What about fundraising lessons? So as I mentioned there in the intro, 50 million raised to date. What have you learned about fundraising throughout this journey?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's tough. I feel like in some respects, people tell me we've had a bit of a charmed life as far as fundraising goes. And, knock on wood, I hope to experience that in the future. One of the things I think that's been a real boon for us is like the quality of people that we've brought on the cap table is extremely, extremely high. So, anytime we have, a false start or a bad month or whatever, it's never a conversation where I have to manage, spend a ton of my time doing it. I'm very transparent and everybody's always on the same page, but to be able to bring on a high quality of human being in addition to, high quality capital it's something that's allowed us to kind of just grow with confidence, knowing that our backers are here for yesterday, for today, and well into the future. And also, to be honest, I'd say be proactive about that. It's kind of a boring answer, but as soon as you finish one fundraise, you got to start thinking about the next. And not that you have to do a ton of things, but what you really don't want to be is behind the 8 ball, 6 weeks of cash left and having to run all around town with your hat in your hand. And we haven't had anything close to a situation like that. So just being proactive and working with great people is something that served us well.
I know we're somehow already a month and a half into 2025, which definitely feels like it's flying by. When we think about your 2025 plans, what are you most excited about?
Yeah, I mean, I'm most excited about basically, when we were thinking about what's 25, what are our big risks now? And we've really de-risked a lot of them, right? At this point, it's a scale up, more products, more headcount. Our biggest risk this year is recruiting, right? Like the staff we have on board now we're coming out of Miami last week, super aligned, super ready, kick some ass and take some names. But, we may double the headcount again this year, and that's going to be a challenge both logistically and from a culture perspective. So how do we do that and maintain the really cool thing we've built for the people who are in-house right now? So scaling up, launch more products, it's all right in front of us. It's right in front of us. It's just a question of execution. And that's something that really excites me.
Final question. Let's zoom out into the future. We can go 3 years, we can go 5 years, we can go 10 years, however far out you want to go. What's the big picture vision for everything that you're building there?
That's a great question to end on. If you'll believe this, the first slide of my pitch deck was that I'm going to create the next Berkshire Hathaway, Munich Re, a $50 billion globally diversified reinsurance company over the next 40 years of my life and die in the chair doing it. So I'm in this for the long haul. I mean, to say the least, we're just getting started today with what we want. We want to be the best E&S carrier in the market. So that's for sure. And we can become a multi-billion dollar company doing that. But really, one of the cool parts about insurance is there's no upper limit to what we can achieve. There's no kind of maximum size you can get. You don't even need to get to double-digit penetration to be at the type of numbers we're talking about. So for me, there's no end to this, right? We're just going to keep building, just going to keep working with great people, having a lot of fun while we're doing it. And sky's the limit. We'll see where this can take us.
When you do your big annual conference, I hope it's in a bit more of an exciting place than where Warren Buffett does his conference. I went 2 years ago and there was not much to do. There was not much good food. Yeah, I wish I'd been in Miami instead. So maybe do Miami for your big annual conference.
Well, it ended up working out nice there. I mean, I'm stuck up here in Boston in 20-degree weather, and I'll tell you, 75, 80, it was very nice this February. Very nice.
Yeah. I can imagine. Amazing, man. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. This has been a blast. I really enjoyed it. I know the audience is going to as well. So thanks so much and wish you the best of luck in executing on this vision.
Appreciate it, Brett. Thanks for having me.
No problem.